In our tech news, Africa is projected to recover in 2021 from its worst economic recession caused by the global COVID-19 pandemic, according to a report by the Africa Development Bank released earlier this year. Most economies are reopening with people on the continent getting vaccinated, and now American companies are discussing Africa as a business destination. For more insight, Africa 54's tech correspondent Paul Ndiho via Skype spoke with Scott Eisner, president of the U.S. Africa Business Center at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce based in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Scott Eisner, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Paul.
You are the president of the U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce. Bring me up to speed. You recently had a summit. What did you guys talk about?
Thanks, Paul. It was a great summit over 2 days. The U.S. Chamber's Africa Business Center hosted, I think it was somewhere near 500 to 600 people, all with a really positive, I think, strong message that there is opportunity here on the continent for American businesses, and especially small, medium, diaspora-based businesses in the United States that are looking for a really good opportunity to export to and invest in the continent. That's why we named the summit Access with Africa, because I think there's plenty of opportunities to go around, and it's not just the story of the Chinese or the Europeans, it's really the story about American private sector, which I believe, all told, probably does more investment on the continent than anyone else, but we just don't get credit for it all the time.
What opportunities are you looking for in Africa, and in terms of engagement, what areas are you currently engaged in?
We do engage heavily in North Africa, East, West, Central, Southern Africa, so it's not just a story of U.S. private sector investment looking at Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa. It's the story of American businesses going into many other countries, whether it's Botswana or Congo. But I think that the exciting role that we're seeing right now, especially as we all look to figure out what a post-COVID environment is in the digital space. We think there's a really interesting opportunity in the digital space. I also think, there's an untold story about Africans' creative markets and what's being produced, both music and visually on the continent. Which is why the AU, I believe, this year was deemed it the African Creative Year, because I think there's a lot of untapped potential in those spaces as well. But I mean, across the board, we're looking at diversification of markets.
When you talk to entrepreneurs on the continent, what are their concerns? What is it that they want to see, for example, U.S. businesses do in Africa?
Starts with partnership and skills and development training. There are so many really interesting mid-sized companies that exist across the continent, but access to the information, where they're located, how they're broadcasting themselves, it's not as easy of a story for Americans to unfold, I think. But I know American private sectors are very eager. When I talk to small and medium-sized enterprises, they really do see a lot of their future being on the African continent, investing in, partnering with African-led businesses.
Occasionally, I've talked to some people who run businesses, and they're afraid that to invest in Africa. They look at the risk factor and they say, oh, maybe not now, I'll wait a little bit and see how things go. You run an organization that prides itself as trying to mitigate, to help companies maybe look at it from a totally different perspective. What risks companies here afraid of in Africa?
I think there has been liquidity challenges and forex challenges. So how do I get my money out of the markets where I might be investing? We saw this play out in Nigeria a couple of years ago when hyperinflation settled in parallel markets of forex. I think those are some genuine concerns wherever you are in the world. If I can't extract my money from the market where I'm investing, I've got some really large challenges. I think that the story is true. It comes back to how are we educating American businesses on the opportunities? And that's really where the Chamber prides itself. I think we've done an amazing job over the last number of years helping American companies of all sizes demystify the risk, leverage their investments with strong partnerships with African businesses.
How do you plan maybe to engage the Africa Continental Free Trade area? That's a bigger bloc that is open and trying to encourage other African countries to trade among themselves.
We see it as a really immense opportunity for American companies to find hubs on the continent to expand and invest locally around different regions, especially as the non-tariff barriers start to get mitigated, the tariff schedules come into play, and the and the different chapters of the AFCFTA get worked out. And now everything can be good on paper. It's how do you implement will be the real question over the next number of years. And we're partnering very strongly with Wamkele Mene, the Secretary General of the AFCFTA. We're working with our ambassadorial network across the continent to help educate American businesses. We are all in on the AFCFTA. We see it as an amazing opportunity to come to the continent, you know, an African design trade agreement for Africa. And I think it's going to be a hallmark for what the future looks like on the continent.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
That was Africa 54 tech correspondent Paul Ndiho speaking to Scott Eisner, president of the U.S. Africa Business Center at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.